Let me begin by reassuring you that this will have absolutely nothing to do with the coronavirus epidemic. This is going to be about cheating, winning, and money. I just did one of these, and it was about, in part, Bernie Madoff's $50 billion Ponzi scheme on Wall Street. That's $50 billion, and he did it over a period of 10 years. And the obvious question is, how the hell was he able to pull this off in the midst of so many experts, people who made their living handling money? It doesn't seem possible. How did he do it? First of all, he had a lot of help. He was empowered, literally, by his investors. And he was a very respected person in the financial community. His resume was a Hall of Fame material, and he was a co-founder of NASDAQ. He was trusted. No one was going to suspect Bernie of any monkey business. And because he was a powerful, influential broker, he was able to release almost no information about what he was doing, and he could get away with that. If questioned on it, he'd give a jocular, dismissive, or partial answer. Also, if you were one of the investors lucky enough to get in with Bernie, he'd swear you to secrecy. Why? Bernie didn't want the details of what he was doing to get out. Then anybody could copy it. People could draw two conclusions from this. One was that Bernie was a very sharp, a genius. He knew more about the market than anybody, and with all his connections, he could anticipate market moves faster and surer than anyone else. Or you could say that Bernie had to be doing some kind of a shady deal to get an edge out in the gray area of legal compliance. Either way, the people who were investing with him didn't care, because Bernie's returns were fantastic and consistent, and so they were making very good money. That's all they needed to know. There were some who could see that Bernie's numbers did not add up, could not possibly add up, and all they did was go elsewhere for investment. To them, he was a whirlpool, and they avoided it. Anyone else who wanted to invest with him, that was their business, their money, and their lookout. And at $50 billion, there was also some of that too big to fail vibe going on. Now, the guy who was filing all the reports with the SEC, he was doing that because he had an axe to grind. He had skin in the game. The company he worked for was constantly hammering away at him, asking him, why couldn't he come up with a strategy for investment that was as productive as Bernie's? He knew he couldn't do it because he knew from his numbers that Bernie had to be cheating. But as a competitor, Bernie was beating the pants off him. So he reported it, and for various reasons I talked about in the previous piece, nothing came of his objections. They fizzled out in the thin stew that was the SEC. Nobody there wanted to tackle a guy the magnitude of Bernie Madoff, especially not on the say-so of some jealous dick who couldn't compete with him. So Bernie went on and on and on until finally his Ponzi scheme got so huge that it became like Social Security or so many pension funds. There was such an enormous demand for payments that the system had to face its complete inequity. He had to admit to his fraud. Social Security and the pension funds, also Ponzi's, they go on. They'll go on until they don't. I've gone to some length to discuss this, not so much because I'm interested in it, per se. It's ancient history now, though it would not surprise me if someone were doing it again right now. But what I've been interested in is the pro sports world, baseball and football, where the same thing is going on. By that I mean cheating. When I say pro sports, that means money. And when money is involved, like on Wall Street, you can be sure that some people will do anything they can to get it. Cutting corners, telling lies, anything to gain an edge. The end justifies the means. The same is true for pro sports. I've said that money is ruining the sport of baseball. I meant it in other ways, but it is also a factor in the sign-stealing scandal that baseball is trying to put behind it right now. And typically, it's doing a terrible job of it. Money corrupts, and the more money involved, the greater the corruption. Anything to get an edge. Steal signs, the batter knows what pitch is coming, boom. So the Astros win the World Series. Of course, that's horribly wrong. The credibility of the game is destroyed. It loses its integrity. And this cheating could not possibly be limited to one or two teams. There had to be widespread corruption. And don't forget to factor in the gambling money. But the feeling is, it's past. Let's move on. The New England Patriots built a dynasty that was unlike any other, and in a league based on parity. It was impossible, too good to be true, and yet they did it. Oh, those Patriots, they just kept finding a way. I say the way they found was cheating, and not just by deflating footballs or spying on other teams' practices. And yet we're going to continue to believe that Belichick is the greatest coach, he's the best, he just knows more about the game and how to win than anybody, and Brady, the greatest quarterback, fantastic, and as a team, they were always one step ahead. I say they were cheating, like Bernie Madoff. That's how they did it. Like their owner, the disgraced Robert Kraft, they were frauds. Too good to be true is false. But as the saying goes, it ain't cheating if you don't get caught. And we like greatness. We'd rather believe they were really and truly great.